What is going on, everyone? Joker here. Hope you're all doing well. Today we've got a few news stories in the world of tech and PC gaming. First up, we're going to be talking about Elden Ring, which thanks to a fix from Valve, actually runs better on the Steam Deck than it does on even a high-end gaming PC. Imagine that. Pretty clever stuff. We'll get into that. Also, Battlefield 2042 has finally got a scoreboard. Game still sucks, but you can know how many times you died now. Also, Bethesda has finally removed Denuvo DRM from Wolfenstein Youngblood, and NVIDIA hints that when the Ada Lovelace 40 series of NVIDIA graphics cards launch later this year, that they will continue to produce 30 series cards alongside of them. Hopefully, people will be able to get their hands on them then when the new cards come out. So let's get fired into all of the news. But first, today's video is brought to you by SuperCDK.com, where you can save money on games for all of your favorite platforms, as well as software like Windows 10 Pro for just $19.50, and then you can unlock the prestigious Dark Mode on Windows 10 and take advantage of that. I couldn't live without it. And if you shoot over there right now, you could save 25% off. Hit the Buy Now button and then put in my code JP25 at checkout. I'll walk you guys through the process right now so you can see how much money we're saving and how to go ahead and install this on your Windows 10 PC. That brings our price down to $14.62, total savings of almost $5 using that JP25 code, which will work for any software products over there. Once you're done with that, go ahead and click on Submit Order and select your payment mode of choice, which me personally is PayPal, and then I'll go ahead and complete the checkout by clicking on Pay Now. After completing the checkout, it'll bring you to your purchased order page, and it will update in a matter of seconds, or just go ahead and hit F5. Go ahead and do that one time. It came through literally immediately. I got the payment email that it had gone through and the delivery of the product exactly at the same time. Once you're done with that, go ahead and click on View Keys and Codes, and we'll get our code right here that we can go ahead and copy and paste in on Windows 10 by hitting the Start button and type in the word Activate. When you see that activation settings or see if Windows is activated, go ahead and click on that, and it'll bring up this right here, and click on Change Your Product Key or Unlock Windows 10. As I already have Windows 10, I obviously don't need to put in a new key, but just paste it in and then go ahead and click Next, and you are all done and set. For more information on SuperCDK.com as well as the coupon code, be sure to check out the links down in the description below. So first up, let's jump into our title story of Elden Ring, which runs better on the Steam Deck now than it does on PC, thanks to a clever update from Valve for the newly released Steam Deck handheld consoles that are basically like a handheld gaming PC, more so than a handheld console, I guess. Pretty impressive, the Steam Decks, honestly. Not perfect by any means, but stuff like this actually kind of excites me to maybe want to pick up a Steam Deck somewhere down the line. So how exactly is Valve doing this? Well, essentially it is pre-compiling the shaders for Elden Ring, which would essentially alleviate all of the stuttering issues, or at least most of the stuttering and frame rate drop issues that we're seeing on PC and have been seeing since launch, which I've covered. The game has an absolutely terrible PC port, and there are some fixes out there that you can do, like increasing the cache, the shader cache on your system can help kind of improve this stuff. You still will see some stutters and hitches along the way, but once, you know, the game gets sort of like quote-unquote like fully baked and has everything compiled, then it'll run a lot smoother. Why they didn't build something like this into the game to do from the main menu, I have no idea. Honestly, any game on PC that's running on DirectX 12 or the Vulkan API should have this feature, similar to something like the Call of Duty games. Since Modern Warfare, if you've ever booted those games up, you know that it compiles the shaders ahead of time so that the game will run smoother when you're actually playing it. It can take a few minutes, but it's honestly worth doing so that the game will run better. So, over on Ars Technica, they say that Elden Ring runs exclusively on the DirectX 12 API, which takes away the responsibility of the game's memory management threading away from the driver, and that is why a lot of the stutter is introduced on numerous DirectX 12 titles out there if the shaders are not properly compiled ahead of time. So in order to address this, not just in Elden Ring, but in other titles out there, Valve's software team had an idea that shader compilation is at its best when it's optimized for a PC's specific specs, which is exactly why certain games pause, analyze your computer, and then compile shaders accordingly. But what if a game maker doesn't bother with an efficiency-minded shader compilation process? Could Valve step in and do something like that? And something like this has already been available, actually, for Linux gamers, but the toggle only works for Vulkan and OpenGL software, not on DirectX 12, which they go on to say on Windows 10. Elden Ring doesn't qualify because it is a DirectX 12 game. So even if you were playing this on a PC with Linux, you would run into the same issue. But with the Steam Deck on Linux, the Steam Proton compatibility wrapper is sending all of the game API calls to Deck's hardware via Vulkan, and this makes any game running through the Deck's default Steam OS 3.0 implementation compatible with the feature. So because of the Steam Deck and how it specifically relays those calls via Vulkan, basically this toggle will work with that game and any other DirectX 12 game out there, and all you essentially do is you download an update for the given title. So Elden Ring would have had an update that you could download, which was essentially pre-compiling the shaders for that specific game, making the game run smoother overall on the Steam Deck. Now, of course, it's not going to get, a solid 60 frames per second or anything like that. The Steam Deck is still not that powerful. But with something like this, you're going to see far fewer dips in your frame rate, and it should overall run a lot smoother at the end of the day. And I hope that at some point in the future, we could see something like this on Windows even, either through Windows or through Steam on Windows working with DirectX 12 titles. Given the option, I would choose to pre-compile shaders for any game I was playing. DirectX 11, 12, whatever. Obviously, DirectX 11 doesn't need it as much, but DirectX 12 and Vulkan games do need this to basically to be able to run smooth. And I would gladly sit here for an extra 5 minutes while it compiled shaders, or go grab a beer or something, while it was doing that. The only other downside is that it does have to be redone anytime, you install like a new driver, or if you change graphics cards or something like that. So yeah, it does, you do have to wait through it multiple times, but honestly, how often are we updating drivers? Maybe every couple of weeks, and some people go months without doing it, so conceivably you wouldn't really have to do it all that often. And I still think most people, you can let me know down in the comments below, would you opt to sit through a few minutes of compiling shaders in order to get a game running smoother? I think it's a no-brainer. I think we would all do that. Speaking of things I would not sit through, is another match of Battlefield 2042 for the rest of my life, because the game is terrible. One of the things, though, that it was missing at launch that it now has, thanks to Update 3.3, which rolled out yesterday, it now finally has a fucking scoreboard. That's right, folks. Finally, what is this, 3 months later, 4 months later, they finally put a scoreboard into Battlefield 2042, something they just didn't put in at launch for whatever reason, along with, like a standard rush mode or VoIP or anything along those lines. So the game's pretty much dead at this point. I don't think adding just a scoreboard is really going to bring back players in droves. They pretty much screwed the pooch on BF 2042. Time to go back to the drawing board, fellas, and start again. Either that or just, I don't know, get rid of Hazard Zone and make Conquest and Rush like actual modes with a server browser, which shouldn't be that difficult. Just make it, I don't know, like Battlefield. Make Battlefield like Battlefield. Seems like a novel concept, I know, but just give it a try, shall we? This update 3.3 does fix a few other things, but honestly, not a very vast patch list for this. Really, the main highlight of it is that they finally added in a fucking scoreboard. But DICE did say that there will be another update coming in April, which is going to be much bigger, and it says that it will include a larger set of changes and fixes, as well as the introduction of VoIP functionality for squads, so you can actually communicate with your teammates in a squad-based game. Again, quite the novel concept. Finally, Battlefield 2042 will allow you to talk to teammates. Yay, woo, like fucking, all right, DICE, fucking slow clap for you. Slow clap, yay. Yay, fucking idiots. Next up, Bethesda. Finally now, when this game, 2019 it came out, has finally removed Denuvo DRM from Wolfenstein Youngblood, which was the co-op sort of standalone game that came after, what was it, the New Order or something like that? Something like that. The second Wolfenstein game, basically. After that, they came out with this. It's sort of like a stopgap between titles. It's not like a fully fleshed out like Wolfenstein game, like the Old Blood and the New Order or whatever. Like I said, whatever they're called. It's more like a standalone like story based DLC, and it happened to have co-op, and it really wasn't that great. What I didn't like about it was that it gave enemies levels. So they essentially became bullet sponges if you weren't high enough level to kill them, and like one enemy to the next could look exactly the same, but the only difference was they had a higher number floating above their heads, so they became harder to kill. This is Wolfenstein, folks. It's kind of like Doom. It's not meant to be like fucking Destiny, where you're sitting there putting 100 bullets into someone just to move their health bar like that little because you don't have a leveled up enough weapon or something. People play Wolfenstein to blast Nazis in the face with a shotgun and see the rag doll and blood physics as they go flying through the air, not to pump 1,000 fucking bullets in it from an MG42 only to barely fucking kill the thing. So, honestly, not a great game, in my personal opinion, but thankfully Denuvo DRM is now gone from the game, probably because it got cracked some time ago and it doesn't really need it anymore, which is kind of standing in line with what Bethesda always does with these titles. Eventually their Denuvo gets cracked and then they go ahead and remove it, so that's a good thing. If you were waiting to play it without Denuvo, you can now do so. Hey, that rhymed. Didn't even mean to. Last up before we get out of here, NVIDIA has hinted that when the 4000 series cards come out, codenamed Ada Lovelace, they will continue to produce and sell 3000 series GPUs, and in theory, and this is not coming from them or anything, in theory, I think the thought process behind this would be that if gamers are focused on getting the latest and greatest cards that come out, some people would still opt to get the 3000 series cards, which will still obviously be very good, even when the 4000 series comes out, and if they are willing to take those cards, there might be a lot more availability of them once the 4000 series comes out, and a lot of people are willing to wait for those if they can get their hands on them. But for people that just become impatient or just desperately need a graphics card, like I couldn't imagine what people would do right now if their graphics card just up and died out of nowhere and they had to replace it. You're going to be paying through the nose for one. Thankfully, things are starting to stabilize there. But it's not great, honestly. So this all came from a recent investor event where, according to PC Mag, NVIDIA's CFO Colette Kress was asked about this approach to its next generation of products, and Kress apparently deflected the question by mentioning that the company may continue to sell its current generation parts even after the debut of the new hardware, and then she apparently mentioned how the Green Team has been selling Turing parts still during the 3000 series, like the RTX 2060 12GB card, which is really only one card, so hopefully it's not like that. I would hope that they would still keep around the big boys, keep around the 3090, the 3080, 3070, like keep around those cards, 3080 Ti even. I would hope that they would keep those cards around and just continue making them as is, rather than making a 12GB 2060, which, really, let's be honest, it's a mining card. That's why they made that thing. So, yeah, that's what they did there. So, I'm hoping it's not that case where they're just going to continue selling like a 3060 and then make it a 24GB card so that miners start drooling over the idea of it, over a low-power card with tons of video memory. So I do hope that that is not the case, and they just actually continue making the cards. And, yeah, there you go. That's the news for today. Let me know your thoughts, opinions, everything down in the comments below, as I love reading through those. And I will catch you guys next time for another video. Sarah.